Hello everybody, we got our 96 Super Bronco here. We just got back from Bronco Safari in Vernal, Utah, where we were doing a little bit of wheeling and taking some videos, and Andrew was posting them up. And it inspired some questions on the build specs for this truck and how we got it to where it is, and basically, what is it? What's under it? What's here? What's there? So we figured we'd just do a few videos here of it and go through it from bumper to bumper and let you see it. We'll start off with where this thing began and how it came about to what it is today. We got it from some friends of friends, and it had a 4-inch lift with the TTB, and it was sitting on 35s. We wheeled it a little bit with that configuration, 302 and 5-speed along with that. And I'm not a big fan of the TTB. I like the straight axles. The added weight down low lowers the center of gravity of the vehicle, especially with this type of lift. I really like the feel, so we went with a Desolate Motorsports straight axle conversion kit and the spring hangers in the rear. Rebuilt the axles, a good set of axles for it, and then went from there. You know, and that's what it was riding on there. Problem was with the 302 and the 5-speed didn't really take into account the parasitic draw and the extra weight. This thing could barely move itself. In low range, really a lot of trouble getting up obstacles, and you're really keeping the RPMs up on the engine just to keep in the power curve. So it was tough. So kind of thinking about it, it's like, oh, the Godzilla came out, so we decided to go ahead and move forward and put the Godzilla in it, and then Tremec 40/50 transmission, as well as an Atlas 4-speed behind that. And it's outstanding now. So you got the handling and the performance of the drive with the heavier axles down under, and really planted, the stability's there, and of course the durability of that, but then the power to drive it all too. So we'll get into the engine now and kind of start there and work our way back. So here we are under hood, got our Godzilla, and prior to putting this in there were 3 things that we were really concerned about going from the 302 to this engine, and that was the coilover towers and crossover support, because that was all built in with the 302. The HVAC box, and of course the booster over there. And looking at it, we knew 460s and the Power Strokes went in this body, and we didn't think that there was any difference between the HVAC box or booster placement, but you never know until you try to get something in there. We've all been there. But I feel we got really lucky. We've got a mile of room between the HVAC box and the coil packs, as well as the booster and the coil packs on this side, and everything fits in here between the coilover towers and crossover perfectly. Doug made a great set of, Doug from Well Sorted made a great set of mounts down the cross member, polyurethane bushings, and then up to the block. This thing sits perfectly front to rear, side to side, and nice and low, to where it's extremely serviceable, and just everything's easy to get to on it. You could get in there and do anything you need to do with it. It's a great placement for the engine, even if you don't have this setup here. So, engine compartment itself, not a lot's changed. Like we mentioned, we've still got the factory HVAC system box over here, and we're using a lot of the original parts from this as well, just upgraded condenser, a little more efficient, so it works a little bit better. But, intake is placed over here. We're able to reuse the washer fluid and the coolant reservoir. It's kind of nice. Fuse box up here, still controlling a lot of the stuff in the truck. This truck wasn't rewired. It was in great shape, and really it's an XL, so there's not a lot to it. Pretty simple wiring system in this. In fact, this is a radiator from a F350, F250 with a 460 OBS radiator. Just bolts right in, and it keeps this thing as cool as a cucumber on the trail. Not a problem. This thing can sit out in 105-degree weather with AC going. We never have a problem with it. We're using the factory fan for the Godzilla, as well as the fan clutches too. The OBR controller is got provisions in there to cycle this thing on with the AC, as well as of course the engine temperature. And when this thing kicks on, it brings the air through. You definitely know it's on. Dust goes everywhere, but doesn't it anyway when you're on the trail? So don't have to worry about heat soak at all with this particular setup. This fan really evacuates this engine compartment and keeps everything cool. So, like I said, largely, you know, a fairly familiar OBS engine compartment with something a whole lot better right in the middle of it. Can't complain at all. We've got up here, we've got our ARB compressors, and those are solely for the front and rear lockers. And then, of course, we're running an air-equipped fuel regulator as well. But yeah, I think we can move on to some other parts of the Bronco now. So we'll take a fast look under the front end of this thing and show you what we currently have under it. And I say currently because we're going to be changing that at the end of this week. Super 60, of course, and under this one, we're just running the Ford steering parts on this. We're going to be upgrading those to the RPM steering rods and the Apex tie rod ends on this week, along with a hydro assist. We noticed when we were over there with the 40s, we were getting a little warm with the power steering fluid, so the hydro assist is going to help out with that. We're also running an anti-rock sway bar on this thing too. They just introduced a 40-inch bar for this, so we're going to be able to shorten this thing up and get it tucked under the frame a little bit more and give ourselves a little more turning radius, which is going to be really nice for the tighter trails. And then if you look back under there, you can see the carbon coil over and the Fox bump stop on it. Those really make it nice out on the trail too. We'll move to the back now. Now we're on the back half of the truck. Suspension's pretty simple back here. We've got the original Godzilla Motorsports front spring hanger. And then we've also got their shock mount as well, which is nice because it's a tube that goes all the way across, kind of acts like another cross member, adds a little rigidity to the frame back here. We're running the Wild Horses plus 4-inch leaf springs on this. They work great, love them. And then back here, we actually remade this rear spring hanger and we dropped it down 2.5 inches. Reason being is we needed to raise up the back of the truck to get ride height that we desired. 2.5 inches, so that does it. And then we also straightened the driveline and pinion out perfectly. So when this thing's sitting as it is right now, the driveline and the pinion are just right in line. So real happy with that worked out. And then one of the punch list items for this week also is the bump stop. We raised it up 2.5 inches, so we're also going to drop that thing down and make another bracket for it so it comes down 2.5 inches as well. That'll wrap the rear suspension up. Everybody always asks where they could get bumpers like this for their truck. And they came on the truck when we bought it, and they'd been on there for many years. A little research, we came up with a company named Hefty Fab in Colorado Springs, Colorado, is the manufacturer. And I believe they're still in business, so Hefty Fab, reach out to them, see if they can build you a set of these bumpers, see if we can go from there. We made a lot of modifications on this bumper though. When we got it and we dug into it, we realized that it was only mounted to the end of the frame on the forward side of the crumple zone. We weren't too crazy about having robust recovery points and this 12,000 pound warranty on winch on the front side of a crumple zone. So we redesigned the mounting points on this thing to go behind the crumple zone so they're actually pulling on the strongest part of the frame and the whole frame without the crumple zone. We're actually worried about putting the power to it and stretching the bumper out with a crumple zone. So eliminated that possibility, and we're tied into the frame back there where we're not going to have any issues pulling or being pulled. Like I said, Warren Xeon 12,000 pound winch. We've got a flat link E on the front of this thing. We're pretty fond of those. We use them on our super shorty trucks, just about everything we've got a winch on. And then, of course, we mentioned robust recovery points. We've got air on all 4 corners of this, onboard air. So we can go around to the back. That's also a Hefty Fab bumper, and of course, we've made modifications to it too. Go back there and I'll show you. So here in the back, we have the Hefty Fab bumper in the rear, and we were pretty happy with the way this thing mounted to the frame. No problem using the recovery points back here. Good rigid mount, pulling directly off the frame. Satisfied with that. It did come with some carriers, swing out carriers on it. I believe this was a 2-rack system, probably for a cooler or other gear. The spare tire set over here. Pretty rough trails. The spare tire carrier did impact the tailgate. So we went ahead and deleted those, carry the spare inside now. And aside from that, it's unmodified on the back with the exception of, a couple of holes for our onboard air. We did add side plates to protect the quarters a little bit, and then plenty of plating underneath, so nothing kicked up from the wheels and got our quarters from that angle either. Probably notice on the bottom of this thing we have a Curt 10K hitch, 7-pin RV connector as well, and a red arc brake controller inside. We don't tow the 27-foot Airstream like we do with the red one. We just do an off-road, a small 13-foot off-road with this thing, and it's built to go where this thing goes. So it does fantastic pulling that. So that's kind of what we got for the back on this. Hello again. We'll walk you through the forward part of a passenger compartment on our 96 Super Bronco here. Some of the things we've done in here. So you see largely the original dash, we were able to retain the OEM heater controls, AC controls in here, which are kind of nice. Then we've got our compressor control for the lockers, and then our front and rear locker control switch right here. So it's real easily to access from the steering wheel if you got both hands on when you're going between gears or anything like that. As we mentioned before, red arc brake controller is up here on the dash. And then over here, we've got a lockout for our amp steps. So if you're on the trail and you don't want to deploy them into a rock or something like that, or just want to keep them retracted, hit that button and it locks them out. So going to the good stuff, Tremec 4050. And then we've got our Atlas 4-speed transfer case. Front axle, rear axle, doubler. Final ratio on this is somewhere around 350 to 1 when it's in low. You could really do some precision driving. And as I've found, it's kind of nice to have the low range and be able to go slow, because every trail with a vehicle this size is tight, it seems like. As you can see from some of the pinstriping we've got down either side of it. It's definitely more room in an Early or a Jeep, that's for sure. So we'll move to the back of the compartment here and show you some of the things we've got back here. So moving to the back part here, you'll notice we don't have a back seat. Instead, we've got our 40-inch tire mounted back here. We've got a full plate and assembly that utilizes the rear seat belt mounts as well as the back seat mount, so everything's in there really securely. It's not going to go anywhere. But it holds these CO2 tanks on either side as well as the tire. So we could end up on our lid, and all this stuff's going to stay exactly where it's at. It's secured in there for a reason. And then behind here, we've got a 3-stage hydraulic jack and all the different extensions and tools for it in case we need to use it. CO2 tanks, we primarily use them for reseating the tire back on a bead if we lose that. With the price of CO2 now, we prefer to use the onboard air to air up and air down. It's a little more cost effective. But if we wanted to, we could tie the CO2 tanks into the air system and then utilize the 4 points on the outside to air up. Back there you see the onboard air compressor, and we've just got a protective cover over that with some ventilation so that if we do have some gear that gets loose, it doesn't fall into the compressor and create some kind of a problem there. And we can move around, open the tailgate up, take a look at it from the backside now. So on the roof of this truck, we've got a 110 watt flush mount solar panel, and underneath we've got a 100 amp hour AGM battery. Sole purpose of that battery is to operate the compressor, and then we've got some power points on the back of the console. We got an off-road fridge, phone chargers, laptop if necessary, but this solar controller here, this 30 amp Go Power, maintains the battery, it charges it, maintenance free basically. You just park it out in the sun and it charges it up. We can also connect that battery to the starting battery to the truck just in case we run that down. So it's kind of another fail-safe there. If you ever had a dead battery on the trail, it's definitely it's a bad day. Then we've got our compressor controller here, simple switch and gauge, nothing big there. You're probably seeing this OG a lot on our parts, as well as what we've got in here and that's Off-Grid Metalworks. And that's where we produce a lot of all of the suspension parts for the Super Broncos as well as the Super Shorty trucks. And then items like this as well. You're going to see a lot of that stuff being populated on the website soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I believe Andrea's going to put up some of the videos of this from Vernal after this. So make sure you take a look at those. And thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe.